Laura, congratulations
Thank you.
on Falling. Such a powerful film. And the response to it has been fantastic as well, especially as it's your first feature film as well. I wondered what it felt like to have won those awards at London and San Sebastian as well.
Yeah, it was really nice. It took many years to do the film and even more years prior to the film just to get to do it, just to be part of the industry. So then yeah, I'm always kind of just looking forward to like being able to make another film. So, the awards allow for that. So, it's kind of solidifying my presence in the industry. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere.
It's real. It actually is real.
Yeah.
You wrote the film as well as directing it. I wondered where the idea came from originally. Was it from some of your own experiences or from people that you know?
So, in my last short, I had already looked at the gig economy and, started reading about precarious labor, and that led me to discover the job of a picker. And from then on, I think the more I found out about the job, the more I kind of, realized there was a film there. And so I started investigating it, reading about it, and then reaching out to people who did the job to kind of find out more about, not just the practical sides of the job, but also their thoughts on it, what they do with their free time, like, what their relationships are with colleagues and with managers, and so just really getting the sense of like how that world works. And during that research, I also realized a lot of pickers are migrant workers in the UK. So then immediately I kind of thought, okay, I think I can, bring my own experiences of the early years in Scotland. So I moved to Scotland when I was 18. And I felt like there was a lot from those first years that I could bring into the film, of my own experiences of my first jobs and flat shares and, just the feeling of those years. Yeah. So yeah, I think it ended up being almost like a combination of all these things.
Coming with the actual pickers that you spoke to. I mean, I'm just wondering if they were ha perhaps a little bit reluctant to talk about the reality of the job.
Usually when I would say that, I would protect their identity and, I wouldn't put any information in the film that would be personal enough that would kind of identify them. Everyone was actually really generous with their thoughts and they had these incredible observations that really made it to the film. And I think I tried to make documentaries when I was at uni about work, and that didn't work for me because it was really complicated to once get companies to let me in and ask their workers what they think about their jobs. And at the time, I think I was, young and naive and thought somehow that would work. And it obviously didn't. And then obviously there was also this like the ethics like of it, which I felt uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable sometimes asking certain questions of people because I knew I was going to be putting them on the spot, and I almost knew that, of course, they can't answer truthfully. If they didn't like the job, what was there for them to benefit from telling me that? So yeah, I realized that actually having these conversations anonymously allow for people to really be a lot more open about what they really feel about the job and their lives. And it was really interesting how people also enjoyed those conversations because you don't always get asked that, yeah, on day to day. Yeah.
'Cause there are certain moments in the film that really had, should we say, the ring of truth
Mhm.
about them for me. I mean, there's that moment when Aurora's been one of the best pickers of the week, and her reward is a chocolate bar,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is
Yeah, that was something a lot of people mentioned, how the rewards are usually kind of more insulting than no reward at
exactly. I
all.
mean, it's demeaning and it's humiliating, and you'd rather they didn't do anything at all, to be quite honest, than do something like that. But you made the film in conjunction with Ken Loach's company,
Yeah.
16 Film, and I noticed he was listed as an executive producer as well. How actively involved was he in the film? Because having seen his films and having seen yours, I mean, you feel like kindred spirits, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very inspired since I was even like a teenager by his films, really. So obviously, I think that social realist tradition definitely comes out in my film because they were, very, very inspiring. So I think in terms of his relationship to the film, I did work more with the producers. Like Ken Loach hasn't been present because he's also not super well in terms of health, so it's just not been yeah. I've been working more with Paul Laverty. So Paul Laverty has been supporting. He also lives in Edinburgh, and he's been really supportive throughout. So yeah, it's been really nice though to be part of, the 16 Films family and to have their support in making the film because I really think we see, cinema in a very similar way. So from the moment we first, moment I first met Jack, which was the producer, I think we realized, we had very, very similar ways of looking at cinema and at the world. And, I think this film kind of shows that collaboration well. Yeah.
It definitely does. I mean, I saw Ken Loach's Sorry We Missed You, which was about the delivery drivers. So that was like, if you like, the public face of this
Yeah.
business. Your film is the other side of the coin, if you like, because it's the side that we don't see as customers.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
And I wondered if you perhaps saw the two films almost as partner pieces.
Yeah, they're really, it's kind of this job is so divided, it's kind of you have, and before Aurora, there's other jobs as well. You have, for example, stores. I've interviewed some, which are the people who put the parcels, put the objects on the shelves. So this is almost a job that exists prior to Aurora. And then you have packers, and like you said, you have the delivery drivers. Like you have this enormous, almost production line, but they're completely isolated from each other. And so it's no surprise to me that, for example, in that film, Sorry We Missed You, it portrays the delivery person, but we never see Aurora. And the same with this film. We see Aurora, but we don't really see the rest of the production line almost. So yeah, I definitely think these are kind of they're the same job really, just at different phases. Yeah.
Did you actually film in a real warehouse, or did you take an empty one and fit it out, as it were?
So the film isn't just one. So we ended up filming in about 6 different places, and it's almost like a collage of all these places. It was really hard to find one location with the scale that we needed and wanted. And so, yeah, it ended up having to be bits of places. Oh, I have someone knocking. I'm gonna leave it there. Yeah, it was really nice to almost have like different spaces that I knew that in the editing, hopefully we wouldn't realize they're different. Um, and we also used set extensions. So there's some shots where visually we extended the image so that it looks like the space is bigger than what it actually is. Yeah.
And there are a lot of people in the background when you're in the staff restaurant, people that we don't necessarily see, they're just sort of blurred. Were those actually sort of local people as extras, or were they people who worked in the warehouse, or was it
Extras, extras. Yeah, yeah.
your
But we ended up even during the casting process, we ended up discovering a lot of pickers and a lot of people worked in warehouses. So yeah, yeah, we almost like found them by accident, but then obviously we were like, yeah, we want you to be part of the film. So that was really nice as well.
gosh, that's almost like having inbuilt consultants in the film, isn't it? You can
Well, I feel like the writing was already, yeah, the writing was already made in that way, like so many of the scenes were influenced by these conversations. And then every now and then, if there was something in the process that I wasn't sure how it happened in real life, or, I would reach out to people and ask them for, what do you think about this or what do you think about that? So yeah.
there was one character who kind of stuck in my mind to the extent that I wondered if she was maybe a non-actor, and that was the makeup demonstrator in the department store.
She's not, she's a professional actress, but we had a lot of non-actors in
Very
the
good
film.
then, because she felt so real.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She
No,
was,
but
and it did make me stop and think. I wonder if she's just somebody that they came across and she's doing her job.
yeah, no, she was amazing. And I remember already during rehearsals, we adapted we did like a little bit of improv. And yeah, I could just see the character come to life, and it was almost funny how good she was in that role. But we had a lot of non-actors in the film, so it's almost 50-50. So yeah, I think that also helps in creating this, yeah, this kind of sense of authenticity that the film carries.
There was one thing I didn't expect about the film, and that was a sort of sense of tension as it went along, almost sort of suspense, because I found myself kind of getting worried that there was something really awful going to happen to Aurora. And I'd be sat there watching and going, no, please, please don't do that. And of course, then I realized as it went on that that awful thing had perhaps already started happening, really. Was that something that you always envisaged as part of the story, or did it sort of evolve as you went on with making the film?
Yeah, weirdly enough, I think that sense of tension was actually semi-accidental. But it's funny you say that because you're not the first person that says that exact same thing, that they have this constant fear that something bad's going to happen to Aurora. And I think it's because we're obviously seeing how her life is operating, but we're also noticing that she's starting to see the world differently, you know. So like obviously in the warehouse, she's picking different items, and this came from again research and people saying they noticed the items people were ordering and attributed meanings to them and wondered who's this item gonna be for. And then, of course, I'm thinking, okay, I think throughout the film, as her world is starting to get smaller, I feel like and obviously with the news of the colleague, I think she all of a sudden starts noticing these ropes and starts giving them a different meaning, you know. And I really think it's almost just a perception. It's almost like she's seeing these windows into into darker aspects of how we live that she's all of a sudden confronted with. And I think it's maybe that I think a lot of people had the fear that maybe that's where she's going to end up in, in that dark place. And of course, she's kind of experiencing this darkness in many different ways throughout the film. But I do think it was semi-accidental. Yeah.
Some of the best ideas always are, actually. You mentioned earlier about how you'd looked at making documentaries.
Hmm.
And there is a documentary feel to the film,
Yeah.
much throughout, actually. So, did you find that documentary experience that you'd had actually quite useful when it comes to making dramatic stories and putting them on film?
Yeah, I think mainly the idea of working, for example, with non-actors, I think because of those attempts at making documentaries during university and after, I think I learned from there that, people can be very engaged if you kind of engage them in the right way. So I think that helped a lot working with non-actors in this film because sometimes, I've written characters that make, no sense to this person. This person wouldn't say that line that way. And so to me, it's completely useless to like force them to say a line that I wrote just because I wrote it. Why? So I think a lot of the times it was, especially during rehearsals, the conversations were a lot more around what is this scene? What is the scene saying and what is this character trying? So, for example, in there's a scene with the manager with the dog where he shows the dog. I had a completely other like dialogue written for this character, and then when we started rehearsing, Billy, who plays that role, he used to be a truck driver. Like it was the first time he was doing film. And I could see that the lines I had written didn't make sense. And of course, like I'm writing it from my own voice, and I'm like Portuguese. So, even my English isn't, 100%. So immediately, as soon as I was like, no, this character, what's happening here is this character is trying to speak to her, like to Aurora, he wants to engage, he wants to have a conversation. And she's like completely being monitored, like her idle time is being counted. She does not have time for this conversation. She needs to go. Her scanner is beeping. And from then on, just the stuff he brought, when he's talking about the dog and he's showing his real dog. And I was just like, this is wonderful. This is 100 times better than what I had written. And so I find that quite a lot, when you open it up to other voices, it enriches the film. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that collaborative approach that everybody talks about that goes with filmmaking, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it's the way to get that different voices. Yeah.
It's been lovely to talk to you. I wish we had more time actually, but it's always the way. But like I say, congratulations on the film because it is tremendous, and I wish you
Well,
absolutely every success with it because
uh,
so deserves it. So
thank you.
thank you
Appreciate
very much.
that. And
You
lovely
too.
meeting you.